10 Fun Facts About Apple. Apple is one of the largest and most powerful companies in the world. A company that had financial troubles is now a household name around the world and has one of the largest loyal fan bases. You probably know Apple as a tech company that produces iPhone, iPad, and MacBook. But did you know that Apple has a history filled with fun and fascinating facts not known by many? Here are 10 interesting facts about Apple. The first iPod had a secret Easter egg. The first iPod for Mac had a secret game you could play if you knew the right buttons to press. This was called an Easter egg. If you go to the About menu and hold down the middle catch for about 3 seconds, you can play a breakout or Pong game while you listen to the radio. When Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak worked together at Apple, they played a secret game called Breakout. The story goes that Jobs cheated Wozniak out of thousands of dollars in bonus money by cheating him at the game. Number 2. Apple has more cash than the US government. It is common knowledge that Apple is one of the world's most successful and influential technology companies. The fact that it has more cash on hand than the most powerful nation in the world is not only shocking but hard to believe. According to a report from Forbes, there were periods when Apple had twice as much cash on hand as the United States government. Number 3. Apple's first logo featured Isaac Newton. One of the most well-known logos in the world is Apple's, but it wasn't always like this. Apple co-founder Ronald Wayne made the original Apple logo. It showed Isaac Newton sitting under an apple tree with a quote from the English poet William Wordsworth. Newton, a mind forever sailing alone through strange seas of thought. Steve Jobs didn't like the first logo because he thought it was too old-fashioned and wouldn't work well when shrunk down. Rob Janoff, a graphic designer, was hired to develop a new logo, the bite out of Apple we know today. Number 4. Apple launched a clothing line in 1986. People think of the iPhone and iPad when they think of Apple's biggest hits. But people probably don't know that in 1986, Apple made a short-lived foray into the fashion world with the Apple Collection, a clothing line. The line was very different from Apple's usual minimalist style. It had brightly colored and patterned clothing, accessories, and lifestyle items with the Apple logo. Number 5. Apple devices are almost always set to 941 in Apple's advertisements. People who pay close attention to Apple's ads might have noticed that the time on Apple's devices is often 9:41. As with everything Apple, this is not a coincidence. The first time used in Apple ads was 9:42, when Steve Jobs showed off the first iPhone in 2007. The time changed to 9:41 when the first iPad came out in 2010. Why is it 9:41? The former senior vice president of iOS, Scott Forstall, said it was all very simple. He said that most new product launches almost always happen around the 40-minute mark of keynote speeches. Number 6. Steve Jobs was fired from Apple in 1985. Jobs was a co-founder of Apple, but he had a power struggle with CEO John Sculley in the 1980s, which led to his leaving the company. Jobs worked on more successful projects such as Next Computers and Pixar. After Apple bought Next in 1996, he went back to work for Apple. Much of the technology used by Next ended up in Apple products and eventually became the Mac OS X. Number 7. Samsung manufactures the iPad's Retina display. Apple's Retina display, which has a lot of pixels, has made the iPad a popular choice. But it probably comes as a surprise to most people that Apple's display is made by Samsung, one of Apple's main competitors in the smartphone market. When you think back to when Apple won a US patent lawsuit against Samsung in 2018 for copying iPhone features, things get slightly confusing. Number 8. Apple's first computer sold for $666.66. The Apple I came out in 1976 and cost a terrible $666.66. Conspiracy theorists were confused by this price, but the truth is much more boring. Steve Wozniak, who helped start Apple, has repeatedly said that the price is not bad and isn't what many people think, and that he just liked repeating numbers. Number 9. Carl Sagan sued Apple twice. Most people know about Apple's legal battles with Epic and other big tech companies. Still, probably not as many remember that Apple once went to court against the famous astronomer Carl Sagan. In the early 1990s, Apple engineers gave the Power Mac 7100 the code Carl Sagan because they thought it would make them billions of dollars. It was a play on the famous phrase, "billions and billions" by Carl Sagan. When the code name was published, Sagan didn't like that his name was connected to the product in a way that could be seen as a recommendation. Sagan sent a letter to Apple telling them to stop doing something. This made Apple change the internal code name for the Power Mac 7100 to BHA, which stands for Butthead Astronomer. As soon as Sagan found out about this, he sued Apple for libel. The case was quickly thrown out. Number 10. A MacBook Pro can stop a bullet in its tracks. The MacBook Pro is a state-of-the-art laptop, but it also seems to be able to protect you from bullets. YouTuber 22Plinkster wanted to find out if a MacBook Pro could save a person's life, and was happy to find out that yes, it could. So, if an armed intruder comes into your home, your MacBook Pro might be the best thing you can have on you. That's all for today's video. Did you know about these fun facts? Let us know in the comments section. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much for taking time to watch this video. See you in the next one. Cheers!